Hi, guys. Welcome back to Freedom Brigade Nation. Guys, we are sitting at a much better place than we were last time I spoke with you.
Amen. Amen.
It happened.
Amen.
Now
President
they had to
Trump.
move it inside. They had to take extra precautions. I personally do not believe it was because of the weather, but I have no reason to think that other than intuition.
I'm happy everything was safe because you were there and I was worried. So
You know what? Here's the deal. I walk around with an army. I kept getting these
this
texts
is
like,
true.
be careful. I'm like, dude, it'll
My
be
Oklahoma
fine. If
army, no
I'm in the
less.
room, yes, I'm fine. Like, it'll be fine. Like,
And
so
Yeah.
I
plus, you
told
had
you
your
guys,
angels
First
too,
Corinthians
Charity.
13,
So don't
13,
worry.
I'm God's favorite. So,
Yeah.
like, if I'm in the room, it's the greatest of these is charity. I can't help it. If I'm in the room, it's going to be fine.
I
Go
love
ahead,
it.
Even. I'm sorry. I saw you talking.
No, I said, and plus, you had your bodyguard angels with you as well.
That's
So you're
right.
fine.
I walk around
You're
with an
good.
army, so I knew. But they moved it, and they needed to do whatever it took to get Trump sworn in was what it
Mhm.
needed to take. And I'm just, you guys, I mean, couldn't you feel it? Like, so I was supposed to get to be there. And because they moved it inside, I watched it with the RNC from a private showing. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you were watching it from your living room. It didn't matter if you were watching it with a watch party or even if you were in person. The electricity, the relief
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
felt across the country. I mean, just a beautiful moment. I
I
actually
was
cried.
I was running into people. I had to do some traveling and there were conferences. I'm out here in Nevada and I'm sitting at a restaurant and there's these two cowboys basically sitting at the other, side of the restaurant. I hear them talking and they probably overheard what I was saying because pretty much everywhere I go, that I'm involved with politics in some way. And that day, it's like we're all running around talking about Trump, 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 and how excited we are. And these two gentlemen were from New Mexico, and they were fired up conservatives who love Trump, and they were just so. But I mean, they spoke from their heart about how hard it has been. I mean, think of New Mexico;
Yeah.
they're right on the border. During the lockdowns, we sued the New Mexico governor because they were doing some of the worst stuff there. And these guys were blue collar; they worked in construction. They were like concrete workers, and they
Yeah.
were they were together for a concrete convention, and they're like, it's all of us. I mean, can you imagine if you live on the border, you're a blue collar American, even if you weren't politically charged before, where you stand today, I mean, you have to fight for
That's right.
for survival. And so they were just, I mean, I ended up hugging them because one of them was a vet too, thanking him for his
Oh,
service. They were sitting there like it was Christmas. They were like in tears over how happy they were. And again,
It's
this is
better
just
than Christmas.
random,
that's
running
awesome.
into people, just random blue collar Americans
Wow.
going, God. Thank God.
Wasn't it beautiful, guys? Trump, with his inauguration speech, verbally took out an AK-47, turned around and went, bam, 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 bam,
Oh,
bam,
come
bam.
on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I
Well,
was like, I know. Go ahead. I couldn't believe he
no,
did
I
it.
just said
It was
there
awesome.
was a table right there made before his enemies. Just like the word of God says, he will place you right there. And when Trump, the biggest thing about it, ladies, is when Trump said, I understand God spared my life to have me for this season to help America great again. That something shifted in the spirit when he said it. When he gave God glory on the national stage, the president, it brought God right back to America, exactly where he needs to be.
That's right. It's
It was
Amen.
such a
awesome.
beautiful thing. I don't know if you guys saw some of his later speeches, but he
Mm-hmm.
said he wanted to say more than he did. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, and what he wanted to say was good too. Like it was just beautiful. But one of the things that we've talked a lot about is the J6ers that were pardoned, right? Because
Hmm.
that was not only political enemies that they were going after American citizens, but it was a warning to every single patriot. Do not stand up. We dare you. This is what happens when you stand up. We know that we stole the election. We don't care.
Hmm.
Sit
Hmm.
down and shut up.
Yep.
And so when he pardoned him, that's been beautiful. But now we've had Sarah Volkers on our show before because she has really been helping the J6 prisoners. As you guys remember, they were putting together like gifts for the families during Christmas and making sure they had correspondence. And then we have Brian Morris, Andrea. Even you guys are going to love Brian. He's with us too, and these two have been instrumental in helping get these guys home. So we touched on it last time we met when Sarah was with us, but the Department of Defense took our tax dollars and their energy and spent the last weeks before Trump was put in office, and they were moving these guys as far away from home as they possibly could. Can you believe that? Like, they were doing their best to make it a hardship. Sarah and now Brian, you went and picked some of these guys up and you brought them home, and Sarah, you coordinated that effort. Brian, tell us about what when you picked them up, what that's like and what you did.
It was an enormous feeling of relief. And I made some calls to the Grady County Prison just to try and establish who I was to them and what my intent was. And I hoped it would help. I didn't know if it would or not. Been in coordination with Suzanne Monk, other J6 outreach programs, and Sarah Velkers. Um, just showed up that day on the 20th, not really knowing what to expect. I just wanted them out and in my truck and out of there as soon as possible.
So, didn't you drive? You went hundreds of miles to take some of them home, right? So there was one that there was a story on, and I'm like, "Hey guys, what happened with this?" And they said Brian Morris picked him up, took him out to dinner, and then drove him all the way from Oklahoma to Tennessee, wasn't it?
That's true. That's true. The 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 morning I arrived, well, the evening of the last Monday evening, one of the guards told me we think they're going to all three be transferred out tonight, and I was like, oh my gosh! I said, is there anything I can do to help stop that? And they said, if you can get in touch with any lawyers, what we need is the correct release forms. We don't have the right paperwork. I said, well, I'm in direct communication with all three J6ers families, and they have lawyers. And they said, perfect. Call those families and tell their lawyers to get that paperwork to us, and we can release them here. So we got it done. I left Monday night with a huge question mark in my mind, and I showed back up at Grady County Prison the next morning at 7 a.m., not knowing if they were even there. And long story short, I was able to confirm that all three were still there. And that's about the time I learned we had a fourth J6er. Zach Allen was there. He apparently had just arrived the night before. So when they all finally filed out single file over the course of about an hour, I had Sherry Payne, Grady County GOP. She was at Walmart doing some shopping for us to pick up some items they desired for their trips home. So when we left the prison, it was me and four others, a total of 5 insurrectionists, domestic terrorists, and election deniers. We drove to the Walmart in Chickasha, got the goods, drove north to El Reno, turned east, and we had Canadian County Lines Den's members waiting. I met them in Yukon. I handed off 2 of the J6ers, Jeanette Mangia and Zachary Allen. I dropped those 2 off with my friends. We'd already made plans for them. They wined and dined them, and we sent them off on a bus with about $900 cash each in their pockets. Once I delivered those 2, then me, Mark Waynick from around Nashville, Tennessee, and David Damon Beckley from Louisville, Kentucky. I drove both of those 2 J6ers to Dixon, Tennessee, and along the way we stopped in Shakota, Oklahoma, and we picked up Tony Griffith, who was one of our 13 confirmed J6 defendants here in Oklahoma, and he rode out there just to be with us and to serve as an extra driver in case I couldn't sleep. Was not sure if those 2 J6ers could legally drive or not, and I knew that they would have a lot of heartfelt things to share. We got to Dixon, Tennessee about 4:30 in the morning, visited, had hugs for about 2 hours, and slept for 2 or 3 hours. And then Tony and I got back to Oklahoma that night, got back to Shakota, Oklahoma about 6 p.m.
Wow, so you drove all the way to Tennessee, and now where did we send the bus? The ones that we put on the bus with $900, where were they sent to?
I know for sure one was sent to Harrisburg. I'm not sure where the other one was sent.
Harrisburg, what?
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Wow. I mean, guys, that's amazing. But you said some of these guys, they got moved around that last week. Like
That's
where
correct.
that is unreal. I mean, is that not infuriating? Now,
Yes. Charity,
Brian, thank you for that. Go ahead, Brian.
you're welcome. We, Sarah, Suzanne Monk, several other folks trying to hit a moving target here. The number of J6ers at Grady County, it was subject to change at any day. We started off with 2 at Grady County and 2 at Oklahoma City, and that number went from 2 in Grady County. It went from 2 to 3, and then down to possibly 1. And we zeroed in on 3 known. And then before it was all said and done, they had another one in there, Zach Allen. But one of the guards said, I found out about like an hour or two before they released them that one of the guards said, "Hey, we have a 4th one here, Zach Allen." He said, "Can you take him?" And I was like, "Well, absolutely, we're going to take him. We have a network of people, and we'll get him home one way or the other."
I'm so grateful. And now the name of this project you guys are working with, Sarah, because the brigade's partner, as we've said before, with all different groups, because this cannot be a thing where we're worried about who gets credit. What the name of this is the Patriot Relief, is that correct?
So American Patriot Relief worked with some other J6 organizations to do the J6 Freedoms Ambassador Project. So Brian and I were helping out with Oklahoma and trying to make sure everyone here got where they needed to go.
Sarah, you've been really instrumental in this from the get-go. I know that there's some signal chats that I keep up with the J6ers on because of you. What are the J6ers finding once they get home?
Wow. So, we met with my friend Taylor. He just got out on Monday and he headed back home yesterday. So first of all, he's flying commercially and he's still on the Quiet Skies list. So, how many hours of security before he actually makes it on the plane. And he makes it back home. He's with his family. It's beautiful. It's amazing. But what is he going to do? What about his job? His licenses have expired now. The state where he's in is very liberal. They're not going to be very friendly towards trying to help him get those back. He doesn't have his equipment anymore. His wife had to sell it just to pay bills. It's like, okay, he's home, but now what? And just that hanging of, where do we go from here? A lot of the guys had health issues that were not taken care of in prison. So their lives will never be the same. They can't go back to what it was before J6.
Did any of them have any health problems caused by what was going on? I mean, you said they had health problems that weren't being attended to. Were there any that were caused because they were just completely neglected?
Yep.
Brian, can you speak to that?
Damon Beckley from Louisville, Kentucky. I took him to Dixon, Tennessee, and his wife, Damon's wife, Carla, had told me on the phone that he had some issues with his feet. He wasn't able to get the right antibiotics for them. It was kind of like a staph infection, she said. And because of that, we let him right up front. But he was complaining about his feet and said he was not able to get, what he needed to get it taken care of. I don't know. I don't know if he was given anything for it, but that was the only example I had of that in the 4 that I and others were able to help.
I know for a fact that we have serial killers and rapists and murderers that are well taken care of in our prisons. I certainly hope that there will be a follow-up with criminal charges for how our J6ers were treated and how there was a different standard for them.
Absolutely.
Well,
I think this is also.
I was just going to say, I shared on my social media and it choked me up. Those that were pardoned that committed suicide while they were there, the 4 gentlemen. It's just sad. And Charity and I have known people who have had to, go to jail for a certain amount of time and then get out. And it's like returning from war, the battle that these guys have gone through. And and just thinking of those that didn't make it, it's heartbreaking.
Well, we're constantly saying we are at war. We've been infiltrated, and J6 is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sarah, moving forward, is there going to be...
So I don't know if
Go ahead.
I don't know if you want me to share just a little bit about picking up the guys at the
I
Federal
do want to hear
Transfer
about
Center. So on Monday, everyone is waiting to hear Trump. Is he going to sign a pardon? Okay, he signs the pardons. Now what? How's that going to come down? How long are we going to have to wait? And the prisons, we're watching across the country. It would be like, oh, they're going to come out in 30 minutes. And you check back an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours later, and they're still not out. And so it's just that intense waiting of, is it going to happen? And when is it going to happen? And we're all out here freezing. So at the transfer center in Oklahoma City, we finally made contact with their families 2 days before Monday. And one of the guys there was being kept in solitary. So he was not allowed to talk to his wife because, he has no access to phones or email. So we were like, how are we going to make contact with him when he gets out? How is he going to know that we are here for him? So the other guy in there, since we had contact with him through his wife, she told her husband, you've got to look for Marcus. You can't leave until you have him. So they met each other coming down the elevator when the guard says, well, you guys going to stop being domestic terrorists now? And he's like, you must be Marcus then, huh? So the hotel or the prison made arrangements for them to stay at a hotel, dropped them off with prepaid rooms. But the hotel did not accept their form of prison ID. So they could not stay there. So they're just abandoned there. So they walked down to the gas station. At this point, we're at like 12:15 at night. So like in a bad part of town, lots of homeless people around.
And it's freezing.
They walked down.
I want to say
asked
this is in the
someone
middle
if
of the Arctic blast. It's freezing as well.
It's like 6 degrees.
Okay.
They asked someone if they could borrow their phone. Like, hey, we just got out. We were pardoned. Can we borrow your phone and call? So, Paul was able to call his wife and get our number, and we were able to go and pick them up. But
That's
what an
incredible
awful
when you
way
think of
to-
what we give illegal immigrants coming over the border for support. Because I was just talking to my friend Terry Newsom up in Chicago. He's been going undercover and finding all these great, nice hotels where we have gangs. We have we have Mexican gang members that are being housed in these nice hotels in Chicago.
Mhm.
Okay. Hopefully not anymore. Hopefully I see ICE is busy right now. Glory to God for that. But I'm just saying the type of support, the money we send to Ukraine, all the support. And then we have people who are being pardoned who should have never been incarcerated in the first place. And they're
Right.
walking the streets and they can't even get a hotel. Are you kidding me?
Right. Well,
And then
go ahead.
these guys, at the transfer center got out Monday night, which for knowing that the pardons were coming to get out after midnight, that's a long time to get through paperwork. Well, then you have Grady County where Brian's at. They didn't get out till Tuesday afternoon. That's a long time. That's a long time for them to wait. But people from around the nation, across the state and around the nation, were calling that prison and saying, President Trump pardoned them. You need to get them out. So I would just I don't know if any of our listeners were those that called, that put pressure. I want to say thank you to everyone who helped. This is taking everyone to get them out. And thank you all for helping on this.
It's amazing.
Brian, thank you.
Sarah,
Yes.
thank you for your work on this. Now, do you know where we're at nationwide? Are all of our prisoners out that were illegally put in by a regime that shouldn't even have been in place?
That's right.
So we actually still have some that have not gotten out. The last prison remaining, I think, was in DC. They still had maybe 10 or so. They moved them out of DC. They're moving them to different county jails. It's the same diesel therapy happening. So just pray for them. Pray for them that they will get out soon and that we will be able to find them.
And this is because
get
they
them
are
back home.
assholes. And that is the most
Right.
Christian word I can think of
No.
for it.
We were,
That
Charity
is,
and I at the beginning of the show said we're going to try real hard not to cuss, but that's going to be the lightest we can say. Assholes, you're welcome for us.
I mean,
to
how
be
can
watering
you-
it down? But this is
it's
for
right.
me. This is crimes against humanity. This is another level. I've been fighting the COVID crimes against humanity from the get-go with you, Charity. But this is disgusting to me that the way these guys are continue to be treated. And like what Sarah said in the beginning, she's been at a very high and low because the reality of it is being incarcerated the way these people were, these innocent people were,
Yeah.
and then having to go back to lives that have been destroyed. Their lives have been destroyed. They lost their businesses. Their families have been struggling. They're going to have to start over. They're having their health issues. And it's just, it's very sad.
So, Sarah, are you going to continue to give help to our J6ers as they are trying to reestablish their lives after they have been prisoners of war? So,
Absolutely.
where can people give
Yes.
to help this effort?
So one place to go would be AmericanPatriotRelief.org. They will be continuing to help families with those emergency needs as they come in. And then Jenny Cudd, a J6er out of Texas, I may mention this before. I started a project called the J6 Road Home, where those J6ers that don't have families and homes to come back to, they have a place to go.
Perfect.
So she has places to live, job training, community, just to get them back.
And what does she have a website for that?
I believe it's J6 Road
Okay,
Home,
perfect.
but
Okay.
J6 Road
I have
Home.
to look that up.
Okay, guys. Well, I want to thank you for being with us, guys. This, like I said, we're at war. We've been infiltrated. I love seeing how the Patriots are fighting back. And the Patriots came through strong while this regime totally failed us and tried to continue to declare war on us by moving these guys around illegally and making it hard for them to get home. Thank you guys for being part of that solution. That's how we win, is together, right? This is a nameless, faceless movement. We the people are how we're going to win. You guys, thanks for joining us.
Amen.
Eben, I do want to
Sarah,
highlight.
we love you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. God bless
Thank
you
You
guys.
guys are awesome. Thank you for coming
Yes,
on. And
thank you all.
Sarah, we're gonna have
Oh,
bring
I'll
Sarah
bring her
back on. Sarah, we're gonna bring you back on for an update on how they're settling in because we want to
Yes.
know. We care. These people are our brothers and sisters, and we care. So thanks, you guys.
Bye,
Yes.
guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Eben, it is January 24th, which means you have your book coming out soon.
Oh,
For those of
yeah.
you that don't know, Eben is Muhammad Ali's nephew, and he's got a book coming out called The Kingdom Fight.
Yes.
Where can we
So
find
actually,
that book? Go ahead.
so the release date was going to be January 31st, which is my birthday next week.
Oh, and today is Tom Renz's birthday, by the way. Happy birthday,
Oh,
Tom.
happy birthday, Tom.
brother. Yes. And so we pushed the book back to March 19th. We're going to be doing a lot of media on it coming up. It's a book. It's called
But people can pre-order. We'll be doing
You
pre-order
can
soon.
pre-order
Mhm.
right there.
thekingdomfight.org.
We're going to be doing a lot of publicity on it for the whole month of February. We got wonderful producer Andrea right here is going to be pushing a lot of things on the
I'll be
book.
hustling.
Or
hustling
she's
for
going to
you.
be hustling. We're going to be grinding. But the book is going to be a 40-day transformation to coming into the fullness of your image of Jesus Christ. I take 40 quotes from my Uncle Muhammad Ali. I pair them up with scripture, and then I give a story of how to implement it from my own life victories, challenges, coming into the fullness of God's glory, and continuing to grow into that. So the book is going to be an amazing book. Please
exciting.
go get your copy. Pre-order soon.
I've already ordered a copy. You guys order your copy. It's going to be great. I was totally out of the loop that it wasn't this coming week, but that's okay. I
That's
will
okay.
get on
No
Eben
worries.
about that later, and Tom and Andrea, right? So speaking
You've been
of
busy,
rock
girl.
stars,
You've been
you
busy.
guys, we have a Donald Trump in Oklahoma. We call him Ryan Walters, and you've heard me go on about him.
Yes.
He is our amazing superintendent of instruction. The very first thing he did out of the gate was take on CRT, take on the pornography in the schools, and he's taken the teachers unions head on. Let's welcome Ryan Walters to the show. Hey, Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me, Charity.
I'm so glad to have you on here. We
Yeah.
talk about you all the time.
Yes,
We're always
I'm a big
talking behind
fan.
your back. This is Andrea and Eben.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, guys, thank you. Y'all are too kind.
No, you're amazing. We are tired of politicians that are like worms with no backbone, and you have a backbone of steel, and we thank you for that. We need more like that. That is why Trump
Amen.
got elected. That is why the Patriots love you in Oklahoma and across the country.
Mhm.
Look, I so appreciate that. And I'll tell you guys, it's amazing because, when you run for elected office, I've never done this before, but you go out and you talk to people, you talk to Oklahomans, you talk to Americans, and they're pretty clear on what they want, right? That they understand, hey, we want this country to go back to the way it was. Let's focus on merit. Let's focus on excellence. Let's not talk about CRT and lie to kids about our country. We want patriotism. We want to get back to making America great. And then, I get elected and I hear from all these Republicans that say, hey, slow down. You're supposed to just talk about those things, not do those things. And I'm going, guys, I guess I missed the memo, because when I actually ran for office and promised the voters something, I meant it. And when I made a promise, I also meant that I'm going to move as quickly as I can to fulfill the promise. And that's where you see with President Trump, right? Look, this guy, in a week, he is like campaign promise, just knocking it out. And the reality is, as Charity said, you've just got to do the right thing, not let the left and the mobs that come from the left, try to slow you down, because you got to do the work for the American people.
Well, and they do gather against you everywhere Ryan goes. If he has a school board meeting, if he's going to meet with the press, the left shows up in numbers. I can't think of a better endorsement than how the teachers unions and the left comes against him and hates him. It's a beautiful thing. And so the Patriots organize as well. Across the country, Ryan, we have people going to school boards and supporting the Christian agenda, the American values. How important is that people are showing up? Because you can't do it alone.
Well, look, I wouldn't be able to do anything if it was not for the grassroots, if it wasn't for moms and dads and grandma and grandpa showing up. That's the reality here. Charity, you remember this. As soon as I got in office, as I began to try to do these things, I had a Speaker of the House that tried to block everything that I wanted to do on behalf of the people of Oklahoma, and then tried to impeach me over saying, and guys, listen to this controversial statement. I said, I'm going to reject federal funding if they try to make me teach CRT or transgenderism. And he tries to impeach me over that. But we had grassroots people that showed up in numbers every time they'd pull a stunt like this. And eventually we got all of this stuff across the finish line because of the grassroots, because people showing up at school board meetings, because of the parents who demanded better, because of the taxpayers who said, listen, hey, and I think this is a tremendous voice as well. We had people that showed up and go, look, I don't have a kid in the school system anymore, but last time I checked, I pay taxes. So guess what? I'm not going to have you take a school system and teach kids to hate this country or try to sexualize kindergartners. That's ridiculous. And because of that, we've been able to have monumental efforts here, and we've been able to lead the country in some of these education reforms.
It's really been a beautiful thing. Yes. One of my favorite things Ryan has recently done, which you guys can imagine, we've seen it, the heads have exploded, right? Mm-hmm. He put Bibles and said that Bibles need to be in every classroom. Yes. Not that we want these,
which is wild that that's a thing, and that right. it upsets them so much. I'm like, are you kidding? This is great. That battleground alone just exemplifies how far we've fallen.
Well, and to clarify, you don't want them teaching religion, because I've met some of these liberal teachers. I don't want them teaching religion, but you cannot teach our founding fathers. You can't teach the history without this as a context.
Amen. Well, I say all the time in college, I was an English dork. I took Bible as lit in college, and I studied many religions because that's what you do when you're getting your education. So for them, we've, Tom and I have talked about on our show, this attack on the Christians, on the Catholics, because they were designated as a terrorist org not so long ago. The attack on that. So you could have, statues and things to Muhammad, but you can't have things to Jesus. And again, we're not saying teach it because you're the public school system. We're saying, why is that text not there? Are you kidding me? And then the fact that it infuriates them, it's enjoyable to watch their heads explode over something like that.
And that's one of the things we point out is, look, if you went back, and I loved it because the New York Times, right, they fact check me, and now on this they go, well, he's actually factually correct. Until the 1960s, a Bible would have been in every classroom because it's the most read book in American history. It's the most purchased book in American history. It was the most cited book by the founders. And then you wanted to scrub it from our history. And I always tell people, I say, okay, listen, try teaching history and teaching, well, why did the Pilgrims come to America? Now, remember, you can't mention the Bible. You can't mention Christianity. So why did they come here? Well, you can't explain it, right? Well, why did Thomas Jefferson say our rights came from God? Remember, You can't mention God. You can't mention the Bible. So explain that to young people. Of course, that's absurd, right? So we're not saying proselytize to kids. We're not saying to
Yeah,
evangelize to
exactly.
kids. We're saying, look, when it occurs in our history, teach it. Again,
Yes.
just explain it to kids because, again, we want them to understand our history. We want them to understand what made America great. We want them to understand the full background, the good, the bad, and the ugly of American
Yes.
history so that we can
Mhm.
continue to be the greatest country in the history of the world.
And for our legal system too. I mean, I've worked on the attorney side of this fight since day one with Charity, and when we talk about the laws of our land, the rights and the wrongs, you know, the moral code that we do want our children to understand and have within our society, that all stems from that the Judeo-Christian and the Pilgrims and our founding fathers. They built, you know, our court system, and our laws are very much based on that too. So you can't teach the legal system either without having it, honestly.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, I find it interesting because you have to have a line for the values.
Yes.
There has to be something that gives values. And so the Bible, it gives values that we all across the board agree on.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't steal. Even as our resident preacher, Ryan, even I can't believe you're not weighing in on this more.
Oh, he's all excited right now, though. He's
I
like,
know he is.
Oh,
I see it.
yeah, I mean, because the Bible is foundational. The Word of God is the foundation of America. What was America built on? What was the principles of America built on? The Bible. So it's like trying to separate white from rice. You can't do it.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't do it. What it is because the Bible brings truth, and truth will set this country free. The truth is already in process now that Donald Trump is in the presidency. He is doing, like my brother Ryan said, he is doing everything he said he would do in truth. And already look at it. He is doing more than what the Biden administration did in 4 years and 4 days.
And it coming from this, it coming from the parents in the school fight, Ryan. It's that's like foundational, because that's what our friend Pastor Bernadette Smith did.
Yeah.
Up in Michigan,
Yeah.
she got the Muslim families and the Christian families to come together over what was the sexualization of the kids in the schools, because we all come together to protect our children, period. So you come after our kids and we fight back. And so what happened there, Trump got a big victory because they went too far. They went too far coming after our kids and what's been going on in our school system. So God bless you, Ryan, because that is like ground zero of the battle.
You know, the sexualization of the kids, though, this is what's killed me. So Ryan, actually, the Supreme Court here overturned what you said about taking the pornography out of schools, which is mind-blowing to me. Why is the statute different? If you were to have a guardian that would allow a child to see these acts depicted, they would go to jail, and that's abuse. That's the criminal statute. Why is it different if it's from a government school?
I mean, the answer is it's not. But we have a squirrely Supreme Court that's a bunch of left-wing activists that literally, guys, they said, I told schools, take the porn out of schools right now. Boom, boom. We were taking it out. Our state Supreme Court said, I cannot do that. And if I went further with it, they would hold me in contempt of court facing jail time if I told schools to pull certain books. I mean, just absurd. So what we've done is we've said, listen, we want legislation to empower us to be able to do that when you have schools that say, no, we want to put genderqueer in a first grade classroom. That's just it's silly that we're even talking about this. And just it shows you also, by the way, just to kind of even give some clarity on this, the same people who sued me to keep genderqueer and flamer out of our schools are the same people suing me right now to keep the Bible out of schools. So under the name of inclusion, they want genderqueer and flamer in a first grade classroom, but they don't want the Bible to be taught in its historical context. And it shows you right there. That's the truth here. They are pushing an ideology. They are trying to lie to your kids and sexualize your kids. And they don't want them to have access to what made America great, what was foundational text, what is real American history. They want no part of that because they're trying to indoctrinate your kids and turn them against the country, their faith, and their family.
Amen.
Exactly. And if it's going on in Oklahoma, I'm out in Nevada, Ryan. So I'm in the swamp of the West. I call it the West Swamp. And so I've been fighting this stuff And I'm a homeschool mom like Charity, and I'm passionate conservative Christian. And I mean, when I see this happening, because I love Oklahoma, by the way, I go to Oklahoma as much as possible. And I always tell
I
Charity,
keep talking about just to move
y'all,
here.
yeah,
but
I want to move there. Y'all have the best people out there. But when I hear this coming from you, and I touch base with Charity, you know, every week with Freedom Brigades, I tell her all the time, when this is happening in the Bible Belt and in the red, you know, quote unquote red state of Oklahoma, it is so disheartening to me, because that means I'm 100 years behind you guys out here, to be honest.
Well, and I'm going to tell you what frustrates me is red states have to lead the way. I mean, here's the reality is you got President Trump in the White House who did a tremendous job making these arguments nationwide. It gives us all the empowerment we need to go get the job done. But then red states, hey, if you don't show what a true conservative vision looks like in practice, and here's the reality. We talked at the beginning of this conversation here about, you know, hey, doing what you promised people. And here's the other benefit of doing what you promise. First of all, people see that you're a person of your word. But second of all, our conservative policies work. They are grounded in truth. They are grounded in human nature and an understanding of our history. So if you move quickly and empower these items and move policy forward, people that were even skeptical will go, well, I mean, it did work. I mean, things are better, right? We do see improvement in the schools. We do see kids that are being more fulfilled. We do see morality and character development being put back in our schools. Because here's what you got to remember, too, is when they took the Bible and prayer out of school in the 1960s, when the Supreme Court did that, which they had no right to do that, they complete fabrication of what the Constitution actually says. Every academic statistic got worse, but also every societal statistic got worse. You look at teenage suicide, you look at drug use, you can look at all of them. It all got worse because we took out any conversation around there. Hey, there's something bigger than you. Hey, look, people before you, they believed in God. It guided their life. It was just, again, just a simple study of history, the placement of allowing kids to pray in school. Even if you weren't coming from that background, you observed it. You know, you observed these things. We stripped it all out, and this was intentional. This isn't like a coincidence. And since then, we have seen the degradation of society. We have seen morality just become a punchline for everyone. And then society has borne the fruits of a school system that has rejected any mention of God, any mention of prayer, and has accepted full-on state-sponsored atheism.
That's exactly
and there's
accurate. That's well said.
And that for me, with our fights with the schools, you know, with vouchers and all things that people bring up, I always say there's no. So first of all, we're trying to, you know, they get rid of parental rights. They try to cut parents out of there, you know. So I've tried to get, you know, tons of people to go to all the school board meetings too. But not only should the parents have a say, obviously, and know what's going on in their schools, there needs to be some competition. There needs to be options for parents, because the sad thing is, like, Nevada's the worst in the nation. I've run many campaigns, gubernatorial, senatorial, mayoral, and we all say the same thing out here. Our state is the worst of the worst. We're even behind Puerto Rico. Okay. So we're like 52nd. And then when you look at how bad the United States is now through the world, the education our kids are getting. I mean, if my kids were to stay in public school, I mean, they'd be reading at like a second grade level. Okay. So it's unacceptable. So it's not only that they're getting crappy educations, they're now getting this indoctrination. And then they're telling us to sit down and shut up and it's none of our business. Excuse me? When were the parental rights, you know, mean nothing to a child's education? So it's just gotten so bad. I mean, how do we fix it, Ryan? Like, where do we go outside of pushing like we do, getting Bibles back in schools and speaking loudly and proudly about this? Where do we go? Because a lot of us feel like the whole thing needs to be scraped. The public school system is just off the rails.
Yeah, and again, by the way, you know, that goes all the way back to, you look at Common Core. Why did they do that? They did that to overly complicate. I mean,
Exactly.
math. I mean, you look at that and you go, well, first of all, that doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you want your kids? I mean, think about it. You master the basics, then you move on. So why did they come in and upturn the way that we taught math? Well, they did it because they didn't want kids and their parents to go home and work together. It was to drive that wedge. And we've seen it even more insidiously in the past few years where, hey, what did Joe Biden have the DOJ investigate parents that showed up at school board meetings? We see unprecedented measures to go to not allow parents to see what their kids are learning in schools, to not see how schools are spending money. That's another one. I haven't even mentioned that yet. But I mean, you see budgets balloon at your local public school, and good luck finding where they're spending all this money. And so one of the things that has to happen is every state has to enact laws. First of all, empower parents to choose where they send their kids to school. And right now in Oklahoma, we have the best homeschool policy there is. Hey, we don't ask you, We don't have you turn in what you're doing. We don't check. No. If you want to homeschool your kid, those are your kids. God gave you your children. Okay. He didn't give them to a government school.
Right.
He didn't give them to a
Amen.
bureaucrat. He gave them to you. So if you say, I want to homeschool my kid, that's all. Hey, that's all we need to know. Thank you for spending time with your kids. Thank you for making the investment in their life. We encourage it and we support it any way we can. And hey, and we leave you alone. That's your thing. We do not want the government to get involved with you in that. We are proud that you're able to do that. We want to support that in any way we can. And so you start there, but then you got to move forward to the school has to show parents everything that they do, that every lesson, every bit of curriculum, every parent should be able to see that, be able to access that. Parents shouldn't be boxed out of a school system. Parents should be allowed into schools to see what's going on. They should be able to see not only curriculum, but the budgets as well. And then lastly, one of the things that we're pushing here in Oklahoma, I want citizens, the people who live in that area, to elect their superintendents.
Yep.
I think it's huge. I mean, so we elect our local, we elect a mayor, we elect a local representative, a local senator. The school superintendent, a lot of times, is one of the most highest paid people in that area. Everyone in that area pays taxes into the school system. You have school boards that don't hold superintendents accountable. You've got all this situation where they don't listen to parents. Let me tell you what makes you listen a little bit more. When you got to run for a re-election, when your name is on a ballot. So I ran for election here statewide in Oklahoma, and it was a tremendous honor to get to go to every county and talk to people of Oklahoma, and it's clear what they want. I think these superintendents, they need to have to answer for the decisions they make, for what they're doing in a school. And you say, hey, parents, grandparents, you vote on who the superintendent is. And if you don't like the job they're doing, boot them to the curb and let's get somebody in here who's going to actually help our kids.
That's beautiful. I do have one question. You mentioned Common Core. I've always thought the math, and they also push sight words over phonics. Do you
Correct.
feel like part of that was to discourage critical thinking and to just believe what you're told and believe what the computer says and make it harder to figure it out for yourself? Because if you don't know the easy way to do math.
1,000%. And you guys, I'm a history teacher. I was a history teacher for 10 years. And I saw the same thing with history where, hey, why aren't we reading more primary sources? Like, why are we reading what someone said about the Constitution?
Right.
Why don't you just let the kids read the Constitution? Why are we saying this is what Jefferson thought? Why don't you read Jefferson's letters? And so we're redoing our history standards right now, and we're forcing, hey, no, every history teacher, the kids are going to have access to the original documents. I think that's so important because that's how you see them able to indoctrinate kids. If you put the Federalist Papers in front of the kids and then you try to tell them, that the founders had, the completely secular, no belief in God and believe that government could do what they want. Okay, the kids are going to read it and go, well, that's not what Federalist 45 says. That's not what Madison said right here.
Right.
So I think it's so important to have kids, first of all, as Charity pointed out, have a basic understanding of math, science, understand the basics. So then, hey, you can't come back in and try to do this whole, wiping it clean and going, well, actually, this is what science is. It's like, no, teach them the basics. And then it's very hard to indoctrinate them from that point. But in American history, our kids should be studying the Bible. They should be studying the Constitution. They should be studying the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence. Because if we can get back to that, it will be so much more difficult to try to upend their education and indoctrinate them when they get into the later grades, when they get into college, and trying to turn them against their country. I truly believe, it's like, hey, I'm a nerd. I love studying American history. And it's like, the more you read from George Washington and Jefferson and Adams and Lincoln, you fall in love with them. You just say, hey, look, these are incredible folks. And they were incredible, frankly, because they knew that something was bigger than them. They realized they were folks that studied history. They were folks that studied human nature, and they understood that.
Ryan, would you just run the world, please? That'd be awesome. That'd be you're amazing. I do want to point out before you go, because I know you have a set time with us today, and we appreciate your time. But you did another awesome thing in the last week, maybe a little bit longer, because going to DC threw my time frame off. But you're suing Mayorkas $474 million because of the cost of what the illegal immigrants cost our public schools. You want to tell us a little about that?
Good for you.
Look, I would love to. And you guys, the left, they love to throw these things out here and these platitudes of, illegal immigration. We're just trying to help people out. And we've tried to lay this course out of, like, first of all, it's caused mass chaos in our country and in our states. We know about the crime. We know about fentanyl, but we also wanted to find a number on it. And remember, Joe Biden tells us we can't ask whether kids are here legally or illegally. We can't ask their parents how they got here. We can't ask those questions. They have tried to fight us on being able to do that. So we're moving forward to say, no, actually, we are going to get that information, number one. Number two, we've already used the information that was willingly given over to us, and we've already estimated that it's cost us over $470 million under Joe Biden to educate the children of illegal immigrants. Well, they're the ones who said that they left the border open. His own ICE director said a week ago, yeah, we knew it was a major problem. We should have probably done something about it long time ago. So they knew it. And so we said, Mayorkas, you're on the hook. We need to hold the Biden administration accountable for the mess that they created in our states. We need to support President Trump in getting this back under control. And it starts with holding those individuals accountable and then supporting President Trump in getting our country back on track, bringing back law and order, and putting American citizens first, and not allowing the undermining of our society, of our taxes, of our entire system here by allowing illegal immigrants to continue to pour across the border.
That's amazing.
Amen.
Do you guys see why he's a superhero? Why every episode I'm like, Ryan did this week. He did that this week. You're amazing, Ryan. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for your time, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Let me say, I got to meet with Charity here in our building yesterday. I got to meet her wonderful daughter, Esther, and I'm telling you, she is a rock star, and I have so loved getting to work with her, but I'm telling you, she is fantastic out here in Oklahoma. They don't come any better than Charity, and it was an honor to get to meet you guys as well.
Thank you.
God bless you, Ryan. Yeah.
Let us
Thank
know
you,
what we
guys.
can do for you. We always got your back, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Bye. That's awesome. You guys see why I think he's amazing.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh. I'm like,
Andrea, are you
I
gonna move now? Come to Oklahoma.
I fangirl over him. I'm just like,
I do too. Like because he's amazing,
talk
right?
to me
Got
all
the
day,
backbone.
Ryan.
The Trump of Oklahoma is what he is. He's
It's,
amazing.
you know what's crazy is like we talked about how his initiative for the Bibles in the schools just made the liberals' heads explode, and I'm going, and how and why? And he talked about that double standard that they have, where they're like, no, we want our porn, but we don't want the Bible. And we talk about this with just basic. This is why I go back to the legal stuff a lot. When you talk about censorship and our First Amendment, what these crazy leftist lunatics don't understand is if you want censorship, guess what? You get it on both sides. Okay. So you're going to come in and say that I can't have the Bible there, but you can have porn. It doesn't work that way. The First Amendment is our First Amendment for a reason.
Right.
And it's just wild to me that they can walk in their hypocrisy so boldly.
My body, my choice.
I
mean,
my body, my choice.
do.
But go get your vaccine. You can.
Right.
What makes you a strong, independent woman is being able to get an abortion, which is disgusting.
Which, by the way, isn't my body, my choice. That's your baby's body, right?
Exactly.
That's not even.
But you're using my body, my choice BS for that. But then you tell me that I have to go get a vaccine. So no, it's not my body, my choice. The hypocrisy is never ending. And what I love about Ryan's very simple measure, you know, even the lawsuit, it's so basic. It's like, yeah, this is, we're living in the banana republic, and he's exposing it in some of the most easy, basic ways, and the liberals don't know what to do with themselves. That's why
you
they
know
hate
what
him.
it is because he moves in common sense.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Common sense.
I mean, just like Donald Trump said, a lot of these mistakes is common sense.
So if you're ever having a bad day, go Google Ryan Walters, Oklahoma, and it's entertaining because you watch the liberal heads explode and you see the common sense Eben's talking about.
Yeah.
And just this, it's coming out, and they just lose their mind over it. It's always entertaining.
I love it. Well, that was a pleasure, Charity. Thank you for having him on.
It was, Charity. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm so glad that we finally got him to come on because we talk about him all the time. But you guys, I appreciate everything you're doing. You know, Patriots, Trump is in. We're excited. There was a reprieve. We've celebrated. Now we must get back to work. We must be getting involved. 4 hours a month of your time is what it takes to take back your community. If you take back your community, we will help you. You can take back the republic. A lot of people, when will sign up for the brigades, I will call them. And, while we are in 19 states, we are nowhere near in every community. So when you call me, very likely you are not, or what it is I will personally email you back. And likely I'm going to ask you to get 3 to 5 people together and I will help you get it started. We're asking the patriots to take back their communities, and we will help you. We will empower you, but you have to do it. We cannot do it for you, and the country will not be saved if you just continue to watch podcasts and don't do anything. Faith without works is dead,
Right.
and we must get involved. We are at war. We've been infiltrated, and we do not have a choice. I will help you. It takes 4 hours a month of your time, and we can take it back. Sign up at freedombrigades.com. Eben, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was just agreeing. That's right. Faith without works is dead. And we talk about that all the time on our ministry show with me and Tom. That's been a
Yeah.
topic that God has really been pushing a lot lately. So,
Yeah, it's not.
yeah.
You're not just gonna sit and I mean, I know I always say that I empathize with the apathy. Honestly, I understand how
Yeah.
frustrated Americans are, and I understand how disconnected we feel from the government and from the legislative process, and that that it's gone so far off the rails that it's some people have just given up. They've lost a lot of hope. But I'm hoping Trump and all the work he's done and his first 48 hours there gives a lot of people hope. And people like Ryan and people like Charity Lynch. Charity never would have thought that she'd be sitting where she is today and be part of the RNC. But look at how impactful it has been just having you win. You beat the swamp. You've been fighting the rhinos. And then look at Ryan. It takes everyday Americans like us. He was a history teacher. Okay. We didn't grow up thinking we were going to be fighting this fight. We didn't think we were going to be in politics. And we probably thought, heck no, we're never going to be in politics. But unless we stand in this and unless we're willing to do, like you said, 4 hours a month, how are you going to, you can't sit back and complain about this country if you can't give us 4 hours of a month. And I mean, a lot of people watch podcasts. In the time that you sit and watch the podcast, you could be getting more involved with your community through the Freedom Brigade. So go to freedombrigades.com.
That's where it's going to happen. Andrea, you never thought you'd be involved either. And I would really tell you to just pray and step where God says step. And
Amen.
if you will just do that, before you know it, that's how you walk, right? You put one foot in front of the other. You step here, and then you step here, and then you step here. Then all of a sudden, you've walked all the way over where the Lord needed you to be. You were put on the earth for such a time as this. And
Amen.
if you are watching this broadcast,
Yep.
it's because you are called to do something.
Mhm.
Everything is purposeful. There are no coincidences. And God is calling you to be involved. We must take back our communities. We must take back the republic. It is a constitutional republic if we can keep it. Trump cannot do it alone. Neither can Tom Renz. God bless him. Neither
And
can
when
Ryan.
your children look back in, because we are living through history right now, when your children are older and they say, what did you do during that time? You're going to want to say that you got involved.
And
Amen.
as RFK Jr. has been pointing out, all the food that you're getting in the grocery store is poisonous.
Mhm.
So buy your food, buy your toiletries from patriots. Not only do you support patriot causes, you also do not fund your slavery, which is what happens when you buy from Walmart and the big box stores, and you get a healthier product. So if you go to our affiliates on freedombrigades.com, there are several health affiliates. There are several places. I buy all of my toiletries from mylibertybox.com. It comes in a box once a month. It's about the same prices as the big box stores, but it's healthier products. They work better. And
And it's
I'm
shop,
not
right?
funding my
Freedom
slavery.
Brigades /shop, I believe, is where the easy link.
Probably. Yeah. You know
Yep.
what? We could take real quick there.
Yeah, you can pull it up. Because I was just looking at your affiliates earlier and they're beautiful.
Well,
And
and we are adding some more.
yep.
And I'm learning some more. Sherry Tenpenny said she's going to come and help.
Yeah,
And
Sherry Tenpenny,
is
any products
amazing,
she
right?
recommends, I highly recommend.
She's going to be talking about this touchstone. So can you see my screen?
Here, let me pull it up. There you go.
So I've gone to freedombrigades.com. You can join or donate here. I'm going to go over here to this where it says shop. Go down here and fund patriots with better products than the deep state offers. And with all of these, you can get different items. The My Liberty box also has meat on there that you can buy that doesn't have hormones, doesn't have antibiotics, doesn't have any kind of mRNA injections in them. The Touchstones Essentials, we're going to have Tenpenny on telling us a little bit more about these. But you guys, it matters. We have to take care of our health. We have to be purposeful with our money and take care of each other. That's
Amen.
how we're going to win. Just like with the J6ers, the Patriots came together and we got each other where we needed to go. And even Ryan, when he goes to the school board meetings, we have brigades that are there every meeting that pray and get in line to speak, so it's not all liberal hate. We are going to take this back. We are taking it back. We're winning, but we must not slow down. We have to keep going full force ahead.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, you guys, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
God bless.
Bye.